Welcome to History Channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. During the 1922 Rand Revolt in South Africa, members of the South African Communist Party marched under a banner demanding unity for a white South Africa. Despite the group's communist ties, their cause reflected the racial tensions of the time rather than true worker solidarity, marking one of the most contradictory uprisings in labor history. In 1946, a young Marilyn Monroe posed as a pinup model, earning $10 an hour while working as a photographic reference for artists. These sessions were part of her early struggle before fame, where she balanced modesty and ambition, unaware she would soon become one of Hollywood's most iconic figures. A Serbian couple from Dalmatia, Croatia, captured in 1930, wear traditional folk costumes that reflect centuries of regional heritage. Their garments, richly embroidered and symbolic, represented identity and status within their community, preserving a culture that survived wars, empires, and shifting borders throughout Balkan history. Lavrentiy Beria, one of Stalin's most feared political enforcers, appears alongside Stalin's daughter, Svetlana Alliluyeva, in this rare 1930s photo. It reveals the strange proximity of personal and political lives within Soviet leadership, where power, fear, and family intersected under Stalin's shadow. Mosteler's Camaro, photographed sometime in the 2000s, stands as a quiet symbol of American car culture. The image captures not only the vehicle's muscle-era legacy, but also the nostalgia tied to individuality, open roads, and the deep emotional bond between Americans and their machines. On April 12, 1999, a Wuppertal-Schwebebahn train derailed and plunged into the River Wupper, killing 5 and injuring 47. The suspended monorail, a proud symbol of German engineering since 1901, suffered its darkest day, reminding the nation that even icons of progress can face tragedy. Volcanologist David E. Johnston was photographed just 13 hours before Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980, stationed 6 miles from the volcano. He was the first to report its explosion, radioing the words, "Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it." Moments later, the blast claimed his life, immortalizing his courage in science. Opening day at Scala department store in Budapest in 1976 marked a moment of modern optimism in Hungary. The store became a beacon of socialist consumer culture, offering Western-style goods behind the Iron Curtain, symbolizing both progress and the illusion of plenty during Cold War-era Eastern Europe. The aftermath of the 1977 Tenerife airport disaster shows the charred remains of 2 Boeing 747s after a runway collision killed 583 people. It remains the deadliest accident in aviation history, caused by fog, miscommunication, and tragic human error, reshaping global air safety regulations forever. In the 1970s, leftist Iranian students in the United States rallied for armed resistance against the Pahlavi regime. Many were exiles opposing Western-backed monarchy, their protests blending academic activism with revolutionary passion, reflecting a generation caught between political repression at home and idealism abroad. Danish Prime Minister Anders Fogh Rasmussen was splashed with red paint by a protester in 2003, symbolizing opposition to Denmark's role in the Iraq invasion. The act shocked the nation, turning a moment of political defiance into an iconic image of dissent during a deeply divisive global conflict. 2 scouts of the Cuban Liberation Army, armed with a Remington and a Mauser rifle, posed near El Pozo in 1898, The photo captures the resilience of fighters seeking independence from Spain, their youthful determination reflecting the spirit of Cuba's long and bloody path to freedom. A cavalry unit of the Cuban Liberation Army gathers outside a home in San Luis, Pinar del Rio, during the 1895 to 1898 war against Spain. Among them was Major General José Miguel Gómez Gómez, later Cuba's president, illustrating the close link between revolutionary struggle and the nation's future leadership. U.S. Navy divers inspect the wreck of the Japanese training ship Ihai Maru after it sank off Hawaii on November 5, 2001, following a collision with the submarine USS Greenville. The tragic accident claimed 9 lives and strained U.S.-Japan relations, prompting renewed scrutiny of naval safety practices. In post-war Hamburg, 1945, 2 circus elephants named Kiri and Many were enlisted to move wrecked cars during cleanup efforts. Their strength became a symbol of recovery in a devastated city, where humanity and resilience found hope even amid ruins left by years of relentless bombing. In 1989, people climbed the Berlin Wall near a sign warning they were leaving West Berlin, defaced with graffiti reading, "But how?" The moment captured a crumbling divide that had split Germany for decades, as joy and disbelief swept through crowds witnessing the fall of the Iron Curtain. Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew visits Pulau Senang Prison Island in 1963, where inmates were allowed to roam freely and build a self-sustaining society. The experiment ended violently after an uprising that left 4 guards dead and 59 prisoners facing murder trials, ending a bold social reform attempt. The enthronement ceremony of Emperor Showa, known as Hirohito, took place at Shishinden Hall in 1928, rich in tradition. It marked Japan's continuity amid modernization. The event blended ancient Shinto ritual with imperial authority, foreshadowing the nation's coming transformation and turmoil in the years leading to World War II. A British RAF reconnaissance photo taken on May 21, 1941, from 26,000 feet, revealed the location of the German battleship Bismarck. The discovery set off a massive naval pursuit that ended 6 days later with the ship sinking, marking a decisive moment in World War II naval warfare. In Libya, March 1943, a truck carries cheering supporters of Hitler and Mussolini. The photo reflects the reach of Axis propaganda during World War II, even in North Africa, where European fascism collided with colonial realities and local alliances shifting under the pressures of a global conflict. This haunting image of Hiroshima, taken on August 8, 1945, shows the city reduced to ashes days after the atomic bombing. Buildings flattened, silence heavy, and human loss beyond comprehension. It marked the dawn of the nuclear age and the devastating cost of total war. The second-story window shown here was used in the 1932 kidnapping of aviator Charles Lindbergh's infant son. The crime shocked America, sparking one of the largest investigations in history. The crime of the century exposed the dark side of fame and forever changed public trust and security. In March 1948, Arab forces attacked a Jewish food convoy en route to Jerusalem during the First Arab-Israeli War. The ambush highlighted the desperation of both sides in a siege that threatened to starve the city, symbolizing the early violent struggle over the future of Palestine. On April 24, 1916, the lifeboat James Caird set sail from Elephant Island with Ernest Shackleton and 5 men aboard. They faced freezing seas and hurricane winds on an 800-mile journey to South Georgia, driven by the desperate hope of rescuing 22 stranded crewmates left behind in Antarctica. In 1925, sound effects artists known as noisemakers created live audio illusions for General Electric's WGO Bry radio broadcasts in Schenectady, New York, using everyday objects. They crafted storms, footsteps, and explosions, turning radio into a vivid theater of the mind long before modern sound technology existed. In 1987, Florida police officer James Duckett was fingerprinted after being arrested for the murder of 11-year-old Teresa McCabe. He had lured her into his patrol car under the guise of helping, then assaulted and drowned her. The case exposed devastating corruption and abuse within small-town law enforcement. A Polish woman in the 1980s reads a newspaper featuring Solidarność, while a cutout of Lenin hangs on her door. The image captures the quiet tension of life in the Polish People's Republic, where symbols of resistance and communist control existed side by side during a time of historic change. In Kabul, 1984, an Afghan communist revolutionary poses with an AK-47 while wearing traditional attire. The photo reflects a complex era when ideology and culture clashed, as Soviet-backed revolutionaries fought to impose reform on a nation deeply rooted in tribal traditions and resistant to foreign influence. Anton Drexler, photographed in 1920, founded the German Workers' Party, which evolved into the Nazi Party under Adolf Hitler, though later overshadowed by those he helped empower. Drexler's early political organizing laid the foundation for one of the most destructive movements of the 20th century. On June 1, 1970, Soviet cosmonauts Georgy Beregovoy and Pavel Popovich presented Neil Armstrong with a hunting rifle. The gesture, offered in Moscow, symbolized a thawing of Cold War rivalry, an exchange of respect between former space competitors united by shared achievement and the human spirit of exploration. In November 1950, U.S. paratroopers of the 187th Airborne Regiment leapt from Fairchild C-119 flying boxcars over Suncheon, north of Pyongyang. It was one of the few large airborne assaults of the Korean War, aiming to cut off retreating enemy forces during fierce fighting on the peninsula. On November 3, 1945, one of France's new SNCF Class 141R steam locomotives was unloaded from the American Liberty ship Harold O. Wilson in Marseille. Built in the U.S., these engines symbolized France's post-war recovery and cooperation with Allied nations after years of occupation and devastation. On April 13, 1990, Mikhail Gorbachev handed Polish President Wojciech Jaruzelski documents confirming Soviet responsibility for the Katyn massacre. The files detailed the 1940 execution of 21,000 Polish officers by the NKVD. It was a historic act of truth-telling, ending 50 years of Soviet denial and lies. A Texas cowboy photographed in 1907 embodies the fading frontier spirit of the American West. His rugged posture, worn gear, and steady gaze reflect a lifestyle built on endurance, solitude, and pride, a vanishing way of life as modernization swept across the open plains. Women smiling on a segregated Atlantic City beach in the 1950s reveal both joy and inequality. Their laughter masks the harsh reality of racial separation in mid-century America, where even leisure spaces were divided by law. Yet their presence symbolizes quiet defiance and dignity in exclusion. In February 1861, Jefferson Davis was inaugurated as the first President of the Confederate States of America in Montgomery, Alabama. The ceremony, held with military formality, marked the South's secessionist ambitions, a prelude to the Civil War that would soon engulf the divided United States. Serbian officers photographed in 1914 stand poised on the brink of a world-changing conflict. Their uniforms and expressions reflect national pride and readiness. Just months before the assassination in Sarajevo would ignite World War I, forever altering Europe's political and military landscape. Leopold von Sacher-Masoch, captured in the 1870s, lent his name to the term masochism, coined during his lifetime to describe pleasure derived from pain. A novelist and thinker, he was disturbed by the label, never imagining his work on human emotion would turn into a permanent psychological term. In September 1943, the crew of a TBF Avenger scrambled from their sinking aircraft after ditching into the sea during flight operations aboard USS Cabot. The photo freezes. A tense moment of survival as carrier aviation proved both daring and dangerous in the Pacific theater of World War II. In 1932 Berlin, Nazi and communist tenants briefly united in protest against rising rents. The strange alliance revealed how economic desperation could blur political boundaries, as ideologically opposed factions found common cause against poverty before resuming their fierce street battles during Germany's collapsing democracy. The morning of September 3, 1967, Sweden switched from driving on the left to the right. Known as Dagen H, the transition caused chaos and confusion as cars, buses, and bicycles abruptly crossed sides. It marked a massive nationwide effort in coordination and public adaptation. On April 23, 1993, Shaquille O'Neal shattered a backboard during a game against the New Jersey Nets. The force of his dunk sent glass flying and the rim collapsing, symbolizing both his immense physical power and the rise of a new generation of dominant basketball athletes. Vietnamese soldiers photographed in 1917 during World War I served under French command. Thousands were sent to Europe as laborers and support troops, enduring unfamiliar conditions and distant battles, their service largely forgotten in the complex legacy of colonialism and global war. A group of village children in Kyiv in 1911 poses before the turmoil that would soon reshape their world. Their simple clothes and innocent faces reflect life before revolution, famine, and war transformed Ukraine's countryside in the turbulent years that followed. Japanese soldiers stand in line outside a so-called comfort station in occupied China during the late 1930s. These military-run brothels institutionalized exploitation, representing one of the darkest human rights abuses of the Second World War and a lasting scar in East Asian history. At the 1900 Paris Exposition, the Turkish and American pavilion stood side by side, showcasing innovation and culture from two very different worlds. The fair celebrated progress and empire at the dawn of a new century, where nations competed to display their modernity and global influence.